Hello, my name is Crude, and today I'm going to be bringing you the first of 8 videos in an 8-part series, which is collecting all of the champion medals on the official Nadeo campaigns in Trackmania, or TM 2020. This season was the 8th consecutive season that I've completed, where I've achieved all of the champion medals on these official campaigns here. And these are what the champion medals look like. As you can see, I have all of them for this season. And if I scroll through, you'll also see that I have the champion medals going back all the way back. I believe, winter 2024 would be the first of the seasons up until this current season. The previous season, fall 2023, I got all the times, but didn't grind this too much. I got the first 2 champ medals. The season before, I did actually get all champs, but I won't be covering that in this series. This is purely just covering from the start of the streak, which is winter 2024, and going all the way through to the current season being fall 2025. So before I go through the first season, so before I go through this winter 2024 season, I kind of wanted to just go through what champion medals, because there are a lot of players that will typically have goals of, beating the gold medals and the author times that are set by Nadeo on each of these tracks in a season. Everyone has their own kind of goals. I see myself as maybe a bit above the average when it comes to playing Trackmania, so I figured that the best thing to go for was the champion medals. So these are not medals that are standard in the game. For those people that don't know, these medals are a plugin through Open Planet, which is only available in TM 2020. The way that these medals work is, for the campaign specifically, or each Nadeo campaign, after 1 week of the official campaign being released, the champion medals, there is a formula that goes into the champion medals that spits out the times that they do. So say if I go to the first track, for example, you will see author, gold, silver, bronze, and then this champion medal. There is a bit of a formula there. It's not revealed exactly how it works. All we know is that the champion medals become available after 1 week of the official campaign being out. And my goal on all these tracks is to beat that time that comes up on each of them. For some of these times, actually before I get to that, there is also another plugin, which is the warrior medals, and some of you might be familiar with that as well. Personally, I don't use warrior medals, but there is another one. As you can see, this is kind of the in-between, as it says in the description. It's the in-between of the author times and the champ medals. And some people also think that the warrior medals are too easy, but some of the champs are too hard, which is completely understandable. So that's fine. The reason that I wanted to bring this up is getting champion medals, as you can see, even from, if you look at my times on the first campaign, a lot of these are kind of around the top 100 to 200 world mark, is generally where the champion medals will sit. The further you get into the campaign, the better placed usually you will need to be in order to get the actual champion medal. So given that it is also the first week, sometimes there are strategies that are found, and there are cuts and things like that that are found after the champion medals come out, and this obviously makes getting the champion medals a bit easier, or there's just a different way to get them, so there is that. But the reason that I wanted to specifically highlight getting all of the champion medals is because it is 25 tracks, there's a lot of different surfaces, in some cases different cars, because this is the first campaign that I'm doing this covers winter 2024, and this is when the snow car came out as part of the 20 years of TM kind of celebration. So bringing back the winter rally and desert cars from the original games. If you can see here, so this is the actual website. So you'll only be able to see this, like obviously you can go online and have a look at what the champion times are. You don't technically need the plugin to see them. You can just go on the Champion Medals website, go to the season, you will see each of the champion times, what the medals are, how many people actually get them, and then towards the bottom, you will see who has all of the champion medals in that season. So there's me there. For this one, there's only 45 people that got all 25 of these champion medals. And you'll see if I go back even into the next campaign, this one only has 32, because then 33 would be these. So 33 people have the spring 2024 ones. And then we look at summer has 42, and kind of so on and so forth. So you can see that it's something that not a lot of people that play the campaigns actually do. You can kind of see like even just one champ medal, it starts at 750. So you're looking at just getting one, you're kind of sitting in the top 1,000 of overall players that kind of do this thing. And some of these you'll find yourself with familiar names if you've, watched certain streamers, and you'll see some of the top players that sit within those. So you'll recognize those and you'll recognize the pros. So you might recognize Dexter or Fisho, Grenadi obviously, Mime, Virtual, Samifying. The winter campaign was actually the one that Samifying won. So that was obviously a fantastic achievement for him. So yeah, so that's basically how that works. Kind of where my grind and everything comes into this is, and for a bit of context, I started playing Trackmania back in, I think it was summer 2021. Yeah, this was my first campaign. This track I just went back to on like a RMC. So this would be the first campaign that I've played, and you can kind of tell from a lot of the rankings and stuff that that this is very much the first season that I played. I hadn't played any prior TM games to this. This is purely my first TM game. So the fact that I think I've been able to make this achievement, considering how long the game's been out for and that sort of thing, and the kind of competition I'm coming up against in terms of trying to get these like top 100, 200 type times, and then going beyond that in some cases, which I'll get into in sort of a later video or in later parts of even this campaign. I think it's quite an achievement. I did take a bit of a hiatus in 2022 to 23. Didn't really play some of the campaigns all that much. Like you could see there's just campaigns that I just don't play. Started kind of getting back into it in the spring, but didn't really play. And then summer is where I really came back. Didn't play the full 2023 one that much. And then this is where the streak begins. So I think I guess I can start on the first track. The reason I also wanted to cover this is I think it's a bit of a nostalgia for some people as well, to kind of go through and look at these maps. This is this kind of campaign. It's the first campaign that we obviously see the snow car, but also a whole bunch of new blocks, particularly wood, new surface. Well, it's an old surface that was brought into the new game. So what I'm going to do with each of these tracks that I go through is I'm going to let the run play out so you can see what it is to the kind of run to beat the actual champion time. Then I'm going to play it in comparison to the world record to see where I miss out on and how I miss out on. And then where I can, I'll do a bit of a breakdown of kind of the strategies and the tracks, and if there's any kind of, interesting bits of information about the track itself, the people that hunted it, anything like that, I'm going to go through that as well. If there's also anything that you guys that are watching have any interesting bits about the track itself that I might miss or not know, just random bits of information, or even your experiences with hunting any of these particular tracks, definitely feel free to put that down in the comments and share it with all of us. So I'll just let this run play through. This is 01 of winter 2024. So that was my run, and we'll see how that compares to the world record on the track. Bit of context with the player Eddie before I actually get into the comparison of the run. Eddie from previous, you might have seen Eddie's name. If you haven't, basically Eddie Leeds is someone that hunts the 01 tracks typically on campaigns. The last few campaigns, haven't really seen him. I don't know if he's still playing Team 2020, but he also famously hunted AO1 on Trackmania Nations Forever, got the world record on that at a point in time. I don't think he has that. I could be wrong. But, you know, absolutely loves his O1s. So we'll take a look at the comparison and the kind of the strats. So look at it from my perspective. So the way that wood works is different to road. You'll find that the acceleration starts to ramp up, but specifically around the 400 kind of speed range, and that's where things will really, really ramp up. This map really doesn't take advantage of it. It's purely, it's very grippy, so you can swing around corners, and the feel of it is a lot different to road. So the transition from driving on road to wood, you can definitely drive a lot more of a circle, I guess, on wood is how I'd probably explain it. It's just, you can just, so much more sensitive, the steering. So it's really about getting used to the wood surface itself. I think where this is, this particular wood part to start with, you won't see that too much in terms of the sensitivity of the surface itself, but what you will see later on is how tricky it can really get when you're on higher speeds. So I'll go through the run. So this is purely about keeping grip on this downhill. You don't want any airtime or any lift on the wheels whatsoever. And then you'll take this corner. The idea is to just try and hug the walls as close as possible. As you can see, very, very tight lines. And then Eddie obviously gets it a little bit better, a bit closer to that white strip. So the white strip, next to the white strip is snow, so you definitely don't want to touch that. But touching the white strip itself is fine, it's still part of the road, and it's a tight line. And then we'll come up on the penalty here. So the overlapping here is the absolute minimum that you want to be doing. As you can see, like Eddie and I pretty much have the same. We've got one speed difference, but he just takes a tighter line, and that obviously adds up. He gets the wood a bit faster, has more speed. Then you kind of want to set up a bit wide, because this next part you're hooking it, and as you can see, Eddie as well, very close to the fence, hits the boosters very far, and then the idea is to be on his left side as much as possible. Take this left side here, use the momentum of the downhill slope, and then you want to get a tight line here. He is super tight. You can see the speed here is only 2 speed difference. It's very minimal. But obviously with tighter lines, you'll have more speed, even if it is by a little bit, and you'll just be further ahead. And you can see at this point, wood is very sensitive at these speeds, so you have to be super careful. You know, I'm not even steering at this point, because any sort of steering is just going to cause you to, you know, it's going to be very difficult to control. And then the finish. So the champion medal on this one is a 25.748, so I beat this by exactly 500ths. Again, Eddie's got the record on this. It's pretty happy with the sub 0.7 here. So I'll go through my run, show you that, and then show you in comparison to the world record. So that's my run, and we'll compare that to the world record. Let's take a look at the track itself. So you can already see the first trick that we've got here. A bit of a left-right steer, just to make sure that we keep full grip on the track. But then here, sometimes you would typically think that you would possibly, like, say, air brake to keep the bottom of the car, that's rotation, make sure it doesn't rotate, but this you actually want to just nosedive it. As you can see, like, Eddie's already slightly ahead just because he gets that better. Pretty much the same tight lines. This cut, I'm not exactly sure when it was discovered, this particular strategy, but it turns out it was quicker to just go onto the right side of this tree rather than the left and take the full road. I guess it's just getting a tighter line. As you can see as well, with how the wheels are, don't ever really get full grip on the penalty, so I'm not losing speed at this point, or not losing much of it anyway. And then keeping this tight line here, I get a slight clip on the penalty, so I do lose a bit of speed here, but that's okay. Couple of drift taps to make sure I get this corner, and then the idea is that you want to counter steer to cancel the drift, and then immediately brake tap, so that you can set up for this corner. And then the idea is you kind of want to make sure that you can get your wheels to smoothen out so you get this nice overlap, because as you can see, when you're skidding here, this isn't really a speed slide that you can gain speed from. So at this point, you actually want full overlap here so you can maintain grip, you can keep that speed. This is a bit of a quantum slide, or just a grass slide, really. Not really a quantum in fifth gear, you can't really do that. And then this kind of grip, you're just keeping the whole way through. Clip a little bit of the penalty, but that's okay. We're going for that line at the end. And that's 02. So 03 is the first snow car map of the campaign. You'll see that the champion time is a 22.446. My personal best beats that by 51 thousandths. It's within a tenth of the record. But this is a map that I thoroughly enjoyed, just mixing it up with the stadium car and the snow car. This is where I really started to know of which of the alt cars I prefer. As a smooth steer enjoyer, definitely the snow car. But let's get into my run first. That's essentially the map. Pretty straightforward. We'll show how this run compares to the world record. Okay. So this is another map where you sort of have to get used to the car switch from stadium to snow car. The feel is very, very different. Obviously snow car is a lot slower in general than the stadium car. It doesn't have the same sort of ramp up acceleration that you get at high speeds with stadium in comparison to the snow car. This is pretty much just a map of keeping tight lines. There's not a whole lot to it. So as you'll see here, there's nothing really special. you know, it's keeping tight lines. Then you've got that car switch, keeping tight lines again. You know, you can see there's not a lot in difference. You don't want to steer too much, but you definitely want to stay close to the corners. And then same here, very, very tight. You can see like the car is almost hitting the wall there. You know, keeping a tight line here as well. I think I actually action key this because I wasn't particularly used to the snow car, which is why it only goes to 80%. And then the rest is just straight. So yeah, not a whole lot to it. Now we'll move on to 04. 04. This is basically about So 04. This map in particular is around. This is where we'll start to see the first use of quantum slides for this campaign. Quantum sliding is essentially some people call it no slide. So 04 is the first map of the campaign where we'll see the use of quantum sliding. The world record holder Solivagans or Soli, he's got some excellent videos on what quantum sliding is, how it all works, what the differences are between good, great, world record levels. Definitely check out his video on that. I'll put a link to it in the description. If you guys haven't seen it already, definitely check it out and subscribe to him on YouTube. Soli is the king of quantum slides. So by all means, if you want to learn about how that all works, definitely watch his video on that. We'll take a look at my run on this, and we'll see how it compares to Soli's. Okay, and I will see how that compares to the world record. I didn't say it before, but the champion medal here is 26.777, and my time beats this by 31 thousandths. So as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of a gap, and there's a lot to go through with these particular runs. So as you can see here, we start in third gear. As soon as you start to look in third gear, you'll see this overlapping. Soli has already got a tighter line. And this is what a quantum slide is. It's keeping full grip while also speed sliding. You can see that Soli actually sets up a bit wider here, but the important part with this, and you'll hear it if I play the run from here, hear that? If you notice it from here, so the idea is that you're sliding and then you want to gear up with that left steer and then continue to right steer. Soli obviously gets that better, takes it wider, I drift the corner. So he has a better line coming into this. And then again, you want a quantum slide in fourth gear. I'm still using action keys at this point. This is something that I've actually moved on from when it comes to these quantum slides. But he just has like a better line here. The idea again is you want to straighten out before you hit the booster. Make sure that you get into fifth gear cleanly. Keep this grip. Set up all the way through here. My speed slides are terrible at this point, and my line is terrible. But obviously it's enough to get the champion medal. So you can see the speeds that were coming into this. You obviously don't want to over-angle at this point. The more that you angle, the more likely that you'll actually get into losing the gear. And the fact that I'm still continually increasing speed. But you can see the difference, because Solly back here, if we go all the way back here, so Solly's gaining speed, and then he starts to cancel his rotation. I'm still turning at this point. Solly is cancelling his rotation to get into a quantum slide and gain massive speed. I start to cancel, but I don't quantum. I speed slide instead. But the important part of this track is keeping the gear. If you lose the gear, you will not get champ on this. So you definitely want to keep your 5th gear. Continually speed slide, get the thick lines. The thicker the lines, the better. And then the finish is pretty straightforward. So that is map 4. Now to map 5 of the campaign. This is pretty similar, honestly, in a lot of concepts to map 4. This is another quantum slide map. We'll take a look at it. We'll look at my run and we'll see how it compares to Shadow Creator. And that run is a 24.223, which beats the champion medal time of 24.249 by 26 thousandths. So let's take a look at how that run compares to Shadow Creator. Similar to the last map, there's definitely a considerable gap there, and there's multiple reasons for that, which I'm going to go through in this kind of breakdown. So, the lines obviously that we take are a bit different, but as you can see, I'm speed sliding here where Shadow Creator is not. He is quantum sliding. Quantum sliding also, while there is more grip and more speed, obviously because you don't have as much of an overlap, there's less to cancel here when you're trying to gear up into 4th gear. So from that, he's already got 12 speed on me, and the grip, as you can see there, he's keeping tight grip. I almost clip the wall. This is a very interesting line. And then we'll kind of go into this. He is got a wider line, better setup, so he's got more speed here. And then again, this is a very wide line, almost clipping the side there. Air brake coming off of this, so you get a flat landing onto the dirt. Otherwise, it is very, very shit if you don't. And then, as you'll see here as well, cancels into a quantum slide. I do not. I just speed slide, don't have great grip. And obviously, I think at this point, I wasn't fully aware of how this sort of thing worked. So that's why I'm obviously not doing these kind of things. But then the important part is that. So this cancel here is the reason this run ends up being champ medal. If I don't gear up here into this 5th gear, as you'll hear from the sound, it's a different sound. That's the gear up from 4th to 5th. If I don't get that cleanly, then this run is dead. So, and then I can continue to just drive into the finish, a little bit of speed slides, not great, but it works, and it beats the champ time. So that's the white tracks. Now we'll move on to Now we'll move on to 06. And this one is mostly a plastic map. I only beat the champ time by 9 thousandths on this one. Champ is a 27097, and I beat this with an 088. Bit of interesting lore on this one. This is the first map where I might be able to contribute some lore that not a lot of people would know about if you weren't familiar with it at the time. But the world record by Puesta de Paco, which we will see, actually uses a strategy which was being hoarded until the very last day of the campaign. It was kind of unveiled, and we'll see what that difference is. Compared to, we'll actually go through it compared to Solovigance and Winky Face, another Australian player, fantastic player, and was kind of alright, let's go back. So this map, fuck. So 06 is mostly a plastic map with some sausage blocks shenanigans that's kind of going on. A little bit of interesting lore for those people that might not be aware of this particular track. Puesta de Paco, who's the world record holder on this, actually had a strategy which was hoarded until the very last day of the campaign. When I go through it, I'll show how it works in comparison to the other top times that are there, particularly Solly and Winky, and we'll see how those compare and how the world record comes about. But we'll go through my run first, as we have been doing so far. And we will see how that compares to the world record. So you can kind of see there that there's some different lines going on. And if we actually, especially towards the end, so if we take a look at that compared to myself, Winky and Solly, you can see we're pretty much all taking the same kind of line for the ending part. But that was and you'll see as well, like, how that compares if we go towards the end. There's really not a lot of difference. You know, Winky and Solly are pretty much neck and neck. But then, obviously, there's that airtime, which will reduce speed on Puesta de Paco. And then he's got more of a centered line. And that just kind of makes the difference. So it is just a different strategy, but it ends up being faster in the end. But we'll kind of go through the comparison. So obviously, with the sausage, you want to stay as tight as possible. You do get 4th gear here. So the idea is that you want to, that left steer is to cancel your rotation just as you're about to gear up, get into 4th gear. And then tapping on this is faster than smooth steering on plastic. Obviously, I don't get this as good. Puesta de Paco gets it. You could actually get 5th gear before hitting the sausage, and that was slower than getting 5th gear on the sausage part. So the idea is you wanted to try and delay that. And you'll see the speed here is super early for gearing up. Normally 5th gear, you're around that 340 speed range, and I'm at 308 and gear up. That's because on this, I'm sliding and then cancelling the speed slide, or cancelling the slide itself rather, will cause you to gear up at this point. So I'm in 5th gear. Then the idea is to keep grip here. This, you have too much speed, so you need to do a slight release, do a left-right to keep grip, and then you want to go as far inside as possible. Push the Paco keeps a very inside line here to get this line that goes up and keeps grip. The original strategy was to go more outside and then try and keep grip as much as possible, but that's where the difference is. So then, on to map 7. So, 07, this is the champ time here is a 32.694. I've actually beaten this by more than a 10th, so by 0.144 of a second. This one, I'll just go through my run. We'll see how that compares to the world record. Okay, so there is a bit of a gap there, and we'll kind of we'll take a look at this. So, in the start, I'm actually ahead of the record, but Samifying gets a much better quantum here and a much better gear up, and you'll see that because immediately I'm down by a lot. The idea with these slope surfaces is to try and go as low as possible. You end up with like better, I'm not 100% sure in terms of how that works, if someone could probably give an explanation that's better than the one I'm going to give. But I think essentially the idea is that you've got more of a better speed slide coming through this. Your rotation is not as much and it's a bit more optimal. So obviously he does that better, and then the drift, you've got a couple of drift taps to set up for this, keeping 5th gear. Sammy gets a lower line here, which means less airtime, and then you can see it there, he's quantuming and then into the speed slide, so more speed, tighter line around this corner, same thing, better line, sets up for this. He's not speed sliding here, but I am. But then when he sets up for this next part, he's got a much better line. The airtime is kind of not a concern there, but you can see his skid marks, he is speed sliding there. So that's why there's more speed, keeping that low line. And then we've got the finish. So that one was beaten by a considerable margin, and I'm not sure if what the reason was for this, but I guess we can move on to map 08. So, this map is very interesting in terms of champion times. I'm going to discuss this one a fair bit. So, when the snow car first came out, for anyone that would have played the original snow car in Trackmania, it was buggy, very buggy. Hitboxes were all over the place and lapping, overlapping and that sort of thing. I'm sure that you can find some clips on YouTube of the snow car in probably the first month and a half of TM 2020 when it first came out as part of this campaign. The snow car on this particular map, because it's 08, they kind of wanted a traditional 08 map of downhill and that sort of thing. Very buggy with a lot of different landings and stuff that would just kind of lose you speed all the time. You had to be very precise with your landings and that sort of thing. So this is one of the maps that has a insane amount of champion medals that would have been collected. This would have been... Actually, this one has the most champion medals on it. 6,339 people have this particular champion medal. Reason being is because halfway through this campaign, Nadeo updated the hitbox on the snow car, made it a lot better to drive. Much better, especially with landings. You'd get a lot less landing bugs. So this one was kind of a free one to get. Very free. So yeah, 6,000 people. This one I actually hunted a little bit. So I have this by a decent margin, I would say. But I'll go through the map. And I'll show my PB first. So not a bad run. It's okay, but obviously we'll see how that compares to the world record. So there is a decent bit that's going on here which makes that difference of 0.3 between myself and the world record. So there's not too much different here. It's pretty much just, you know, trying to jump in as smoothly as possible. Link Max has got more of a diagonal jump, jumps towards the corner as close to the wall as possible. Starts to dive down, and then you'll see he starts to go diagonal so that he lands a bit smoother and a bit sooner. And that will particularly come into play here, where you'll see he lands, sets up with a better line. He has 2 more speed here, but then this is the money shot right here. So I don't have enough speed to be able to do the strategy that he does, so I air brake early. But in order to land this, but he will nosedive and air brake here. And you'll see that bit of grip there will give him a little bit more speed and a lower jump, so less air time. Be able to take that ramp and get a much more direct finish. So that ending part in particular is where you'll see a lot of speed gain on that. But that is 08. So now moving on to 09. So this is the ice map of the campaign. What you'll find with ice maps, full speed maps, in particular these two, and some tech maps, especially sort of short tech or, you know, tech maps where you'll find not so much speed tech, but tech in general, is you'll find that these champion medals are the most hunted in the first week, which means that they're usually the hardest. And for myself, full speed in particular is one of my worst surfaces. Ice is one of my better ones. So, but this one, I pretty much took the champion medal and never went back. But this is my run that beats the champ time by 54 thousandths. Pretty straightforward. And we'll see how that compares to the world record. So, going through this run, you want to head down this slope. This is the most optimal to start with, to get speed. But then this is where it kind of begins. So, you're doing this ice speed slide, keeping this angle. As you'll see here, the world record goes slightly higher, and ends up with better exit speed. And then taking the title line here as well. As you can see, my car is a bit more rotated, so I'm losing speed here. But the world record just gets that super clean. Gets that nice downhill. And then you kind of want to go tight here. Same sort of focus of just doing ice speed slides, not over-rotating. And then pretty much driving into the finish as well. Some ice maps, you're kind of in danger of like gearing up or you know, that sort of thing. This map from memory didn't really have that issue. So overall it was pretty good. So this is another sort of snow car switch map. This one I only beat by 7 thousandths. And you'll see that it's actually pretty highly, like it's a pretty, it's not that great of a ranking for getting the champ time. Like like we're talking like top 300 to get this champ time. I'm not sure if the snow car update kind of made any differences in terms of how it all sort of works, but I doubt it, to be honest. I feel like this was just hunted a lot afterwards. But let's take a look at my run. Okay, and then we'll see how that compares to the record. So, for this one, I'm actually going to go through, because this just Samifying's run and not my own, because there's a number of mistakes in my run. But I just want to point out some of the things that Sammy is doing over my run. So you can see that this line here, he goes wider, takes a better part of the ramp, and then, you know, inside lines for the setup. Here we've got like this right left, so right to kind of set up a little bit wider, take the left hand turn, cancel that into a quantum slide, goes into snow car, and at this point he's in 5th gear, but gears don't matter on the alt cars. tries not to... So the transition here, as you'll see, you can steer a decent amount with the snow car. So he's steering at 60%, starts to drop the steering down, in fact doesn't steer at all, because if you are steering, you will just hit the wall with that much speed. And then setting up wide here, tiny release to take this turn. If you don't release, you will hit the wall, you have too much speed. Then the idea on the dirt is keep this sort of lining that we've got. Don't want to be overlapping any tires. This is the most optimal. There's a bit of some sliding there, and you'll see that he starts to lose more speed than just keeping full grip. Then the stand will start to slow you down a bit. Takes the turn. Bit of a brake tap, another brake tap. Maintaining that full grip. And then just takes the up banking into the finish. Where that kind of compares with my run is you'll see that I don't actually cancel. I go a bit lower. But you'll see here as well, like, I'm still steering at that point. But that's okay. No sliding here. Keeping grip. It's a lot of speed. I do the brake tap, but I start to slide here because I'm too wide. And actually probably start oversteering. And you can see, like, I'm losing a lot of speed. I'm skidding out. But survive the ending just enough to get the champ time. And that's the green tracks. So onto 11. And this is the first... This would be the full speed track, but it's a bit of mixed full speed. So this one I beat by 26,000, so the champ time is at 32,106, and I have 32,080. So we'll take a look at my run. It's an okay run. And we'll see how that compares to the world record. So, I'll go through this one. As I've said, full speed is not my strong suit. It's probably the weakest of all the surfaces. This is pretty straightforward. You know, you're in 5th gear the whole time, so you don't have to worry about gears going up. Plastic is pretty much the same in terms of the same as dirt and grass in terms of speed slides, except you can't see them. So it's very much a feeling. But then the idea is that you want to, when you get off the plastic, you want to make sure that you're speed sliding onto the dirt, which is what happens here. The speed slides as well work a bit different to road speed slides. Here, you definitely want thick lines like this. Is pretty good around the 90% overlap range. At sort of most speeds, you sort of got that 90% plus. The more speed, the slightly more overlap you want to do on grass and dirt, and plastic as well, from my understanding. So in here, you want to keep a tight line. Now, you think you would speed slide off this, but you actually want to cancel. You want to cancel and keep full grip here. And then you've got to be very careful with the steering on this because you're almost at that 600 range. So 600 speed, you can basically full steer and you'll start speed sliding, and especially with a slope like this, you definitely can get into a speed slide if you're full steering. So you'll see that I stop steering altogether and then turn in. Obviously, Hobbit gets a much better line on that. Here I'm just not even sliding for some parts, but then I start to slide. Keep the wall ride nice and tight, make sure that I'm speed sliding, thick lines, and you'll see my overlaps as well in Hobbit's. Look at his overlaps. Like, mine can be more, and they eventually sort of will be, but that's the kind of overlaps that you want at these kind of speeds, like very thick lines, very, very thick overlapping lines. But that is 11. So map 12, this is another quantum slide type campaign map. So I'll kind of go through this one. There's actually a decent amount of quantum slides in this, but in this particular campaign, and this map as well. But I beat this champ time by 600ths. So that's my run, not too bad. Let's see how that compares to the world record. Okay, so there is a bit of a gap there. We'll start off by looking at this run here. Pretty similar start. I believe Kelvin here gets a better quantum slide than I do in that part. Quantum slides sooner as well, doesn't skid out on that. And as you'll see, he'll jump further and wider, which sets him up better for this next corner. Then the idea is to water bounce, get grip as quick as possible, and then quantum slide all the way through this. I believe you could get enough speed to 5th gear, so you got to be pretty careful with that. From memory, Kelvin probably could correct me. This, then on the sand here, you will definitely lose the gear into 3rd. The idea is you want to cancel your rotation, get into a quantum slide, skid down the hill, cancel the rotation to get into 4th, and then you want to speed slide or quantum slide down it. I actually no slide, so I'm not gaining anything here. I'm just keeping grip without getting any speed. Water bouncing here, going super tight here, and as you can see, the idea is that you want to go as wide as possible, keep grip with that part of the dirt, cancel the speed slide to get into 5th. Ideally, if you have enough speed, you'd obviously want to start speed sliding again, but then bounce it to the finish. And that is map 12. Here is map 13. This is a rather interesting map with a fair bit of, it's a bit of engine off use, and it's, I think, the first time. So this is an interesting map. Map 13 has a bit of engine off part. I think this is one of those rare times that we see the use of a roof being used in this campaign. We don't usually drive on this particular surface, but that's where we actually go through on this one. I'll show you my run, and obviously we'll compare to the record and talk strats. Okay. And we'll see how that run compares to... Hobbit. So looking at the comparison on my run and the record, we'll just take a look. So you can see that Hobbit's got the quantum slides going, gets a clean gear up, lot of speed out of there. You definitely tell how much difference that makes. Gets a high landing into the engine off. The idea with engine off is these overlaps here are not good. The more you're sliding, the more speed you're losing. So you definitely just want to be no sliding on this. Keeping as much grip as possible. There's a bit of a slow-mo there for whatever reason. And then the idea is that you want to wall bang this wood part of the slope so that you get directed and land as early as possible. So then you're on third gear at this point. Start wiggling, try and get fourth gear. And then this particular part is very scary. Very, very scary. So there are points where you will clip the plastic and you can just lose enough speed that you'll drop down into third gear. And on a run like this, there goes champ medal. But essentially this just works the same as plastic. You know, you're keeping speed slides, gearing up cleanly, getting a low jump straight into the finish. So pretty straightforward. Okay, this one is one of the ones that I hunted a lot, and you can see that I've absolutely smashed the champion time here by almost a full second. It's by 0.920. This is a combination of discoveries that were found after the champion medals had come out, as well as the update to the snow car, which came halfway through the season. So I'll show you my run on this. Essentially, there's two cuts, and I love hunting maps with cuts. So this is the reason why my time has been brought down and down and down, way past what is required of the champ medal. So we'll take a look at my run. So, in all honesty, not a great run. Not a great run, especially when you compare to the world record, which is 1.5 seconds off. I'm just going to compare and contrast the two runs as we go. So, you'll see that it's basically just keeping grip, no sliding here. We're practically the same. I'm actually slightly ahead of Maniac at this, but we're going to see that that is not going to matter. You want to land as far right as possible so that you don't end up sideways like I do, and you keep straight. You can see the massive speed difference there. Now so that's the first cut. Where you actually want to go is where that grass part is for the normal route, and you just kind of hug the inside of the turn when you turn right. But this was just found to be a lot faster. But then this second cut kind of kicks off after the champ medals were discovered. So you want to rotate your car on this booster to the point where your car is rotated more than 90 degrees. So that way you get reactor up instead of down. So you won't necessarily be able to see it. I think you can see that it's up, and then you'll see the actual booster on the wheels. If you look at the fine details, this is reacted down because the booster is pointed upwards. And then the moment that reactor up hits, you can see that the boosters actually point downwards onto the wheels. So that's how you know that you've actually got that reactor down. And then the idea is that you want to actually fly through these two trees, take this ramp, go over and get a zoop from this small hill, and then the idea is you want to land. I've over-rotated here, because I was like, holy shit, how did I get this cut? And then you actually want to cancel your rotation and maintain grip, but I was kind of freaking out at this point that I'd got it, because I don't think I'd actually hit this kind of run before. So you'll see that's where I start to get the grip. Way late, way further behind than Maniac. Still freaking out, not keeping a lot of grip at this point. Kind of just freaking out. See, as you can see, Maniac's got a lot more grip at this point. Even if it's not exactly optimal, it's way more grip than what I've got. You know, Maniac said it himself that this run could be improved, but, I mean, getting this kind of cut, the speed, everything, he's 0.4 ahead of record at this second at this point, almost. So, I don't think it's an issue. And then, pretty similar to what we've seen before, you know, keeping grip here, I don't, Maniac does, but keeping grip there is just going to be what gives you that nice, smooth ending. But that is map 14. Map 15. This is, again, another Quantum Slide map. Quantum Slide enjoyers all over this campaign. We'll see. So we'll take a look at my run first. My run is a sub 40, which is enough to beat the champ medal by 23,000. So we'll just take a look at my run. So that's my run, and we'll see if that compares to Alex W, who is exactly half a second ahead of me. So I'm just going to talk straight into the strats. So obviously keeping tight lines at the start, setting up as wide as possible. Actually have this a little bit better, but a little bit not, because as you can see, while I am ahead, I touch the penalty there, which he does not. And so I lose speed. And then you'll see over this hill, the idea is that you want to keep grip. And then Alex does a quantum, I do not. But then you want to make this jump over so you skip as much sand as possible, but not too high that you start losing speed. Then you want to get a smooth landing. Take a little bit of the penalty here. And then you want to set yourself up nicely for this turn. You want to take the penalty there, do a little bit of a drift, and then the idea is just keeping nice lines, and straight into the finish. Not too much going on with that map, but there are some small intricacies with, you know, quantum sliding, just getting better lines overall, but those are the blue tracks. This map will see a couple of uses of the cruise control blocks, and we'll see how those will play in with a bit of the sausage blocks as well. My time is a 47.511, which beats the champ time by 39,000, so we'll take a look at my run first, and see how this beats the champ time. So that's my run. We'll see how this compares to the world record. That's actually a deleted account name, so I'm not sure if anyone actually knows who this was held by at the time. But that account no longer exists, whoever it was. So we'll take a look at the run. So the idea is you want to set up wide, keep as much grip as you can. You want as low as possible of a jump here without going too low. If you end up just going too far left, you just won't make it over this jump. And then you'll see the inputs will look a bit funny. And that's purely just because of how cruise control works. So you want to do a small drift tap here. You will jump that. So the idea is to try and keep grip as much as possible. Take the checkpoint, cruise control will go. And then you want to set up on the plastic. Get the red booster. Get as much speed as you can. Do a bit of a drift. You do want to land as inside as possible here. And then set up, go as high up on the wall as you can. Maintain a lot of speed. Set up wide there so you keep maintaining that speed. Keeping 5th gear here is pretty important. Otherwise, there's not a lot of speed that you've got. You want to drift this. Do another drift on the inside. Stay in the center of these. And then do a drift tap to go on the outside here to set up for this turn. Which you want to try and keep as much grip as possible. I'm pretty sure world record keeps 5th here. I do not, so I lose a bit of speed. You can see the speed difference in the end. It's definitely a massive difference. This is purely just to make sure that I get the champ time. But he almost like hits the bottom of the fin. He's got that much speed, so yeah, that's that run on map 16. So we'll move on to 17. 17 is another interesting wood snow car map where a lot of people have the champ medal on. Actually 2,128 people have the champ medal on this, so it's the second most of this campaign. It's got to be up there as one of the top of all time. I would say at least top 5, if maybe even top 3, which is kind of insane thanks to the update. So we'll take a look at this run and see how that compares to the world record. As you can see as well, I actually substantially beat this one. It's by over 1.5 seconds, and the record is even 1 second on top of that. So this champ time was very possible. It was very difficult, I would say. It was purely just about making sure you didn't get a bugged landing or anything like that. But the champ time was quite easy to get before the update. The update made it super easy to get, and you could absolutely smash it. But there is a lot of speed that you keep here, so the faster you are, the harder this map becomes. So that is something to keep in mind. So we'll see my run, and we'll see how that compares to the record. So pretty fast, very, very fast. We'll go through the comparison between me and the record, how I lose speed, what the optimal strats are. So we'll skip through. The idea is to keep tight lines. Obviously, tight as possible is great. Hitting these corners, setting up higher here makes this a bit better. The other thing as well with these kind of, it's not particularly with these gates, but just with boosters, with the snow car in particular, you want to be as straight as possible, like in the direction of the booster, so that you get as much speed as possible. Same thing with like wheels on the ground, you want all 4 on there, these kind of things. So this was discovered pretty early on in the campaign, so this wasn't anything new by the time like we got to hunting it at this point. But obviously the idea is to make sure you don't hit the snow, set up as wide as possible, don't skid like I do, and maintain that outside line, because as you can see, I've already lost about 10 speed. Staying higher there as well just means that you've got all that slope to work with, so you're going so much further down. And obviously Grenadi's got, you know, a much better line. Will Abuser. This landing in particular was the landing that we used to bug a lot, so this was kind of the problem, and it was almost RNG. I'm not sure. No, okay. So we'll keep going at this point. This is where the wood shenanigans kicks in with the stadium car. So as you'll see, the speed is ramping up a lot. And what I'm not realizing at this point is what exactly is going on. Because I wasn't exactly an expert on wood at this point. But essentially, when you get to these high speeds, you can see it just tick. You'll see how much faster it is. So wiggling on wood at these speeds will give you so much more speed. But the idea is you want to go as high as possible so that you have more space to wiggle, and you wiggle more and keep grip. So you get as much speed as you can, and then on the snow, to lose the least amount of speed, you don't want to be sideways like this. You want to have a no slide across it. So you'll see that I'm kind of sideways and I lose a lot of speed compared to the record. But it's still very fast. So obviously keeping tight lines, going through a snow car, not skidding. These kind of skids are kind of okay, but ideally you don't want to do them. Not sure why I'm air braking. I think that's because I thought the snow car was affected by air braking. It is not. None of the alt cars are, as far as I understand. Very close to that wall, almost hitting. I don't actually skid here, and I'm very close to that wall too, and I have so much speed. I think I hit, yeah, I do. I hit the bottom of the fin. So, very, very interesting ending. But that is map 17. Then we move on to map 18. I've actually tied the champ here. This, I think, was probably the hardest map from memory of hunting. This is a mix of some reactors and some sausage tech. We'll take a look at my run and we'll see what exactly you have to drive to get the champ time. And that gets the champ time. So that's the thing with these medals too, is that achieving the time, tying the time, is getting the medal. So that's a nice, that means that I didn't have to hunt after tying the time. But you'll see, I actually am slightly ahead of record here, but you'll see a drift there. And then obviously Dexter does it a lot better because Dexter is goated. The idea here as well is keeping grip as much as possible with these reactors. And then setting up, you obviously want to get low airtime here, or a better line than what I do, because he starts speed sliding and I don't. And then you want to stay on the inside here and try and exit off the top of the sausage. Speed slide again. I don't get mine too great, but I do get some. Then same here again, setting up wide. Then when you've got this slope surface, you kind of want to cancel your steering so that you just maintain grip. And then again, setting up wide. It was actually discovered that this, to not drift it, was faster, but you do need to release. And then again, just sort of keeping on the side. I don't get this drift too great, but it does set me up here so that I can speed slide, although it's not a great speed slide either. And then just making sure keeping grip. keeping that tight line for the ending. And that ties the champ time and gets the champ medal, and that is map 18. So map 19 is a bit of an interesting one. There is like some plastic wall rides, some very interesting tricks. This is more of like a tricky map, I would say, from my recollection of it. But we'll take a look at my run, and we'll see how this beats the champ time by 48 thousandths. And not too bad. We'll see how this compares to Hefest, who has beaten my time by about 5/10, slightly more. He gets more of a nose down. Need to release for this part here, so that you essentially get a bit of grip there, gives you a bit more speed, and then you can make this turn. And then you want to... I'm not sure if you're supposed to air brake or not. I don't believe so. I don't think it doesn't look like I do. To go over that. Enter the wall rides. Sort of these wobbles here is not what you want to do. You want to keep grip on the plastic, and you want to make sure that you're entering it cleanly, which is not the best thing. I don't exactly enter this the best either, but that's okay. Then you want to ice slide. Hit the wall and get full grip, steer the corner, try and maintain as much speed as possible. I actually get that kind of okay. And then you want to land into that sort of quarter pipe as soon as possible, and then you just full steer and drive into the finish. Very interesting map. It's got like a more of like a, almost like a royal feel to it without it being a royal map. And map 20, and you'll see that I'm actually 4th on this track. This was the track I hunted the most. Absolutely smashed the champ time here, and this doesn't have any snow car in it. This is purely just a map that's been hunted and cut ridiculously. You'll see on this track, we'll kind of go through it, but you'll see the intended route is that you'll drive through the checkpoints, over the snow, into the slow motion box, onto the reset, through the checkpoint, around the corner, through the checkpoint, take the ice, go up, through the checkpoint, around the corner, through the checkpoint, slow-mo block, down and around, taking the slow-mo, reset here, ice, and I think you can kind of see where this is going, even without necessarily looking at it, but you've got this section here that you just drift, take around, go around here, down here, around and so on, around the corner, take the slow-mo, can't skip that one, through the finish. So, what was discovered was there are two cuts. First one, after checking this checkpoint, there's nothing that happens between here and here. So, first thing you do is you cut that part. Same thing kind of goes with this part. There is nothing between here and the checkpoint here. So, you can just cut through this part. And we'll see how that looks with my run, which is 4th world and beats the champ time by over a second and a half. this actually beats the record that was set, or sorry, that's the run. This run is only behind the record by 0.5. This time that Juliana was set, if you'll go through here, was actually driven after the campaign had finished. Virtual had set the record at the end of it, and Giuliano went on to hunt the track after the campaign had finished, and obviously beat Virtual by just under a tenth. So I'm going to compare to Virtual as the record holder at the end of the campaign. So we'll take a look at our two runs and what the differences were. So you'll see a bit of a drift there. You get to that better, but you want to keep grip. So you want to keep grip along here and then get this uphill without sliding too much. The idea is that you want to slow down enough. Whoa, very close. You want to slow down enough that you don't start skidding out because you've got icy tires at this point. So you want to maintain full grip. I do something a bit different myself, and I think Maniac both do a different thing. So I go for this spin, and you'll see that Virtual will kind of like go for more of a down spin. And I think the idea with this is that you don't keep grip on the snow, and so you get a much faster exit and better exit line here. Then you drift this corner. Then the idea is you want to jump down. You want kind of skidding here, but you want an inside line as well. And this is all just about keeping grip with icy tires so that you don't slide out. And then there's not a whole lot here. It's purely just slow-mo drive into the finish. So this one took me a long time to get, and it is one that I hunted a lot. Very happy with this time overall. And overall just like an enjoyable map to kind of go for and just push down further and further. I think I drove this time on the last couple of days of the campaign, so it's pretty satisfying to end with a top 5 on one of the tracks. But that is that. So that's it for the red tracks. So map 21, you can kind of see that. So I've beaten the champ time here by a tenth, but you can see there's definitely a significant gap between myself and the world record by semifying. This one is more around bobsleigh and snowcar, which is very interesting, and we'll see how that kind of works when we'll take a look at my run. So you can kind of see it's very fast, very dank, very, very dank track. And there's definitely going to be some differences between me and the record, which we'll take a look at. So the wood, pretty straightforward. The idea is here on the bobsleighs, you want to go as high as possible, keep a lot of grip. You do want to wiggle slightly, but you can see as well from the transition that Sammy is set up very well for this bobsleigh. You want to cancel this so you're not sliding. There's not too much speed here. But then we're looking at this setup for the bobsleigh. My setup is slightly higher, so I'm losing a bit of speed. Then you want to make sure that you want to air brake here so you can get flat on the wood. Car's not going all wonky. But again, this is where you'll see the speed starts to ramp up more and more and more with that high speed. So it's definitely about surviving that turn. Surviving this, we do the transition. I I'm not hitting this optimally at all. I'm definitely too high for this section, but that's okay. I have a lot of airtime, so I'm not keeping grip here, but you can see like where the optimal rotation should end is a lot later, and you kind of want to come out, jump down here, try not to bug and lose all your speed. But the idea with the bobsleigh, from what you've seen with the snow car, is that you kind of want to be tilted up like this, optimally. And then here as well. It's just a matter of surviving and hitting the finish, because there have been a number of times where you will just fly over or you will fly under or that sort of thing. So really tricky map, and it's definitely punishing in terms of speed where you get things wrong. So you can see why a lot of those times where I'm skidding and, you know, I'm losing a lot of speed with the snow car, and it just overall snowballs to be exactly a second and a half between myself and Sammy. So that is 21. 22 is another very interesting map, and this this map, I'll just take a look at Spammy's run to see. Okay, so this is another very interesting run. It's another interesting map. This map was cut. It was cut big time, essentially, with a reroute. It was about 20 seconds into the track, and it was discovered after the champ medals were discovered. So you don't need to do this cut to get the champ time, although it does make it easier if you can get it. To get the champ time, you can make more mistakes in the end. You can kind of get away with more stuff. The time that you actually see below you by Spammy, that's actually non-cut, and I only beat it by 1,000th. So there, you can afford to make mistakes as long as you get this cut well enough. So we'll take a look at, we'll actually take a look at Spammy's run first. So we'll actually take a look at Spammy's run first and see how the intended way is meant to be driven. So that's Spammy's run. It's normal way. It beats the champ time. It beats it by just over 1/10. Same with mine. The key difference between my run and Spammy J's run, you know, Spammy gets that better. That's fine. I'm probably, you know, 1 to 2/10. But this is the key difference here. So instead of taking the normal route where you'll see Spammy go off to, you will actually cut over this and drive this checkpoint backwards. Take the reactor up, drive through, and take this checkpoint, fly over the fence, which can go very wrong when you're hunting, and sometimes you'll go too wide and you'll just hit the fence and your run is dead. But you'll see the difference. Where's Spammy in this? So you see Spammy's coming around the corner, I'm coming through here, and I'm flying. But obviously, this was not calculated to have this much speed. So you've got to slow down a lot. And then the rest is driven normal. For me at this point, it's just about surviving the run. So my ending is not particularly great. You'll kind of see, like, Spammy should come into frame at this point. Like, yeah, I take this jump, which loses me multiple tenths. And that's obviously not what you want to do. So the optimal run by Maniac, who beats me by over 2.5 seconds, you will see is just a much better run. So it's taking this inside, setting up super wide there for the low air time, setting up for this, couple of releases, you can't do a full speed, and then this backwards, this break here kind of sets you up to then just absolutely fly, and you'll see he's got 500 speed here and ends up bug sliding this and then having to exit it, releasing because he has too much speed for the uphill, because then otherwise you just will not keep grip. And then the rest of it is pretty much the same. Keeping grip up here, getting the early gear ups, wiggling with a bit of left, right, and then setting up a bit wider, so then you can finish. So absolutely insane map. That is ridiculous. To see, like, you can even see the top 5, there's a difference of almost a second. So, you know, there's a lot of room here. I'm not sure, like, what the potential in this map is, but I feel like that run is just a standout above the rest by Maniac, so fair play. But yeah, that's multiple ways of getting champ and multiple ways of smashing champ. So, but that is map 22. 23 is another, is a very unique map. This is essentially just almost like a pod racing Star Wars pod racing type map. You're essentially just reactor boost, like super reactor up, all the way through over snow, and it's very, very interesting. Darkest Sentinel is just an absolute beast on this, which is on this type of surface. So he will, you know, obviously he's beaten second by over a tenth, but my run is a sub 41, which is enough to get the champ medal by 27,000. So we'll take a look at my run. Insanely fast map. Insanely fast record. The world record on this beats me by 1.2 seconds. It's kind of crazy how much faster you can go on this, but you can see immediately at the gate how fast it is. But the mechanics with this is very weird, and you'll see that, like, obviously you can see it's hard to tell by looking at the car, but the feeling is the same as something like a quantum slide. A lot of this, because it's the same as plastic, right? You can't see what is going on, but you can definitely feel it. And you can kind of also tell by your car's rotation, like the way that it angles. But this, so the first part of this is just making sure that you're not sliding as much, but this particular trick was discovered, and the idea is that you essentially zoop. So you've got the reactor down. The way that you would normally drive it is you go outside the trees, do a water bounce, and then you would get grip on the ice, and then you would take this reactor up. But because you're in the air with reactor up, you get a massive zoop, which gives you way more speed than is intended. The idea is you want to set up wide, so this turn becomes a bit easier. You have less rotation, you can keep really, really tight. Then you end up with a massive amount of speed to the point where I think you actually have to release if you're doing it the way that Darkness is doing it. But then ultimately you want to set up wide. Make sure that you're keeping that full grip. You can see that my car is kind of rotating, but then it locks there. And that is what you want. You want this kind of lock. And it, like, the less that you're rotating, it's kind of like, this kind of feels like speed sliding over quantum sliding, but that's kind of what you're looking for, is the more quantum sliding. You want to keep a low line on this so you've got less airtime, and then taking this corner. You can see, look how far, there he is. There's Darkest all the way up there. He's so far. And essentially this end, you want to just cut in between the trees. There's actually a decent amount of room here for that. So if you look at like Sentinel's run, yeah, there's plenty there. The more inside you are, the faster you're going to finish. So very weird map. It's very different to most typical campaign maps, but that was something that was kind of played around with. Cool concept. But yeah, overall really interesting. Kind of a tough one to hunt the champ medal for, but was a fun one to hunt for, so made it kind of worth it. But that is map 23. Then we go into map 24. Now, this is what I was talking about with the ice champs. So this one, I don't think I hunted this. This is purely just driving a champ time and hunting a lot to get this. You can see like the top 5. These are your typical ice players that you'll see. Even Chili Con Carne that's above me is an ice player. You know, Mudder's there, Jazztastic, I've got these times. Noah's also just a good overall player from Oceania, who's got this. But yeah, this is the ice map, and you will see it. So it's very, very difficult map, and I'll go through this as well and how this kind of compares to the world record. So that's my run. We'll take a look and see how that compares to the record. There's definitely one part where we'll see a noticeable difference, but you can already see, first part, you want to steer to the left to then immediately go to the right to set up for this corner, because going right here is just not optimal. You end up with too much speed for this corner, so you have to release. Same with these, like, you are just releasing for some of them because you just have too much speed. So, very interesting. So we go into 4th gear here, and then these sort of like quarter pipes, you do want to go up on a fair bit. Speed slide, do the ice speed slides. Going high up as possible. Again, I don't go as high as Toy Flume, but you can see he's doing the ice speed slides and he has so much speed. The idea is you want to land as close to the left as possible in the shallow water, because the more sort of on the edges you are, the less submerged you are, which means that you'll end up with more speed. And you can see, I believe Toy Flume actually has to release so that you can see like his head almost gets chopped off. I'm nowhere near that speed, so I don't release, but he has way more speed, so it has to release. Land, immediately set up for a speed slide, and get around this corner. So this is all maintaining 4th gear as well, by the way. Exit this cleanly, and you can see like I'm not full steering yet, I'm just trying to straighten out my car so I don't start skidding. Go down the hill, then you want to set up wide, get into 5th gear. So that whole setup is to make sure you get 5th gear before this turn, and then couple of brake taps, one too many brake taps, and you can slide out. So you have to be careful. This is purely just speed sliding into the finish. I believe that time was set, during the campaign from Toy Flume. So, but you can see that run beats Champ by over 3/10. But yeah, very difficult map to hunt in general. Very difficult time. On that one, it's actually the lowest number of Champ medals. There's 128 people that have gotten Champ, and that is the lowest amount on this particular campaign. So I would say overall it's the hardest to get the Champ time on. But we beat it, so we move on to the final map, map 25. And this is kind of the culmination of what we've seen before with Wood, Snowcar, etc. So this, not a difficult map in terms of getting the Champ time on. Like, you can see that Record is actually more than, or almost 2 seconds ahead of my time, and I beat the Champ by just less than a 10th. So we'll take a look at my run, and then we'll kind of see how that compares to the Record. That's my run. You can kind of see that there were some mistakes in there, a couple of skids, and losing speed, which really, on maps like these, it's definitely can add up, and you can kind of see that just in the times between myself and Grenady. The start is not too much different to what we've seen. It's pretty much just keeping tight lines. I don't keep the tightest of lines here. And obviously Grenady just gets that better. Here I actually take some airtime and lose speed, so already there. It doesn't add much to start with, but then it actually kind of does. You can see here the Grenady just carries the speed much more inside, and it's got much more speed already coming through this turn. And then this is pretty straightforward. You're just, going through tight, setting up wide, making sure you keep full grip with the car, get into the car switch, and then air brake here, a couple of drift taps, make sure you don't have too much speed. This you want to set up quite wide, come inside, don't skid like I do. And again, not sure why I'm air braking, but essentially the better that you can get this where you're straighter, the easier it's going to be to maintain this speed. So as you can see, like, I kind of am sideways, whereas Grenady is just keeping it straight, keeping all that grip. It does make this turn easier because you do have a shit ton of speed and you definitely need to brake to survive. Here again, it's just keeping a tight turn, but you can't even, you can barely see Grenady at this point, but the idea is you want to set up wide as you can so you can land in the uphill part. And then take this section here with a lot of speed, very difficult. You could see that, clipping these sort of bankings on the dirt really does not help. And you can see that I start to skid, and that will lose some speed. So you obviously don't want to do that. And just maintaining grip, maintaining the full steer. This, you also have a lot of speed, so you do need to brake. Again, I'm just losing too much speed there. This part can be annoying. The wider that you set up, the easier it becomes, but it's a fine line between surviving and precision. So you've got to do sort of a quick left, right. You also can land in this water and sort of like just jump up and not maintain grip. So straightening out there and not sort of sliding in the water is gonna make sure that you don't fly out. But sometimes it just happens. But that is the run. So that's the Winter 2024 campaign. Overall on this one, I finished 43rd. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference in terms of trophy points where you finish between 11th and 100th. It's all the same. Anything in between that is purely pushing particular tracks to see where you end up. You know, do you end up with a top 5 time? Do you want a top 10 time? It's all just sort of personal stuff. And then where it really starts to make the difference is when you want to start getting into the top 10 on the entire campaign. It's not like having a record on a track makes a difference in terms of trophy points. It's your overall that counts. So for me, the goal was get a top 5 on one track, you know, and make sure that I get top 100 in the campaign, which I did. Typically as well, around the 40,000 point mark is where you'll see the top 100 times come in. So typically a couple of good tracks, like top 10, sort of around that sort of region, and getting all champs will guarantee you an overall top 100. So you will see that, but this is where I kind of finished off the Winter 2024 campaign, and that's the first of the 8 campaigns that I've got all the champ medals on. So next time I'll go through the Spring 2024 campaign, which there definitely are some interesting tracks. This is where we get into the rally car. There's a fun bit of lore with that as well, particularly on 08 of this campaign, which some may or may not know. So that'll be interesting to go through, have a look at, and see where things kind of ended up. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and will enjoy this series that I've put together. Looking forward to see you all in the next one. Take care.